Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you present here in AIT and to those joining us online. Today is a special moment. Over the past weeks, through CareersPlus, we not just attended sessions, we have questioned, reflected, aligned, and evolved. And while today marks the finale of semester 1, it is not the ending. It is a transition into clarity and readiness. Before we step into reflections and discussions, it is my privilege to invite someone who has always stood for purposeful growth, structured thinking, and meaningful contribution. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vasin Suprakorn, Chair of our Visionary Council, for the opening address. Dr. Vasin, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so sorry I cannot be with you in person today because of my previous engagement. But anyhow, so glad to see you virtually, not on the campus today. For the past week, the initiative has brought together students, young professionals, and inspiring thinkers to engage something meaningful. But can report different program which focus the immediate job placement, can report priority the individual foundation. Firstly, the self-alignment, understanding one value, and gaining clarity before taking action. Second, accessibility, a commitment to free knowledge, sharing, ensuring growth in support by collective, progress rather than restrict by access. The last one, I think this will play important as well. User development, because the direction to the student, young professional, and experienced individual. Looking forward, in the next section, we move to the next phase, which is the chief for understanding that transfer into the action by encouraging self-reliance and tangible asset output. I believe this platform creates lasting value. On behalf of the my family, we remain committed to building ecosystem, tangible structure, for the future. And thank you for the team and all participants for being part of this journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vasin, for setting the tone thoughtfully for what lies ahead. Over the past 17 sessions, CareerPlus has taken us through a journey that many of us don't usually pause to consciously undertake. We began with understanding ourselves, our values, our tendencies, our strengths, and our uncertainties. From there, we moved into alignment, understanding how our internal world connects with external opportunities, and eventually into direction, exploring pathways across professional careers, entrepreneurship, higher studies, and academia. But what made this journey truly complete was that it didn't stop at careers alone. We also explore the often overlooked yet deeply essential dimensions of life, including mental well-being, financial awareness and discipline, public relationship management, personal security, and responsibility. And through all of this, one core realization emerged. A career is not the destination. It is the fuel. The true goal is to build a life that is content, happy, and healthy. Alongside this learning journey, CareersPlus has also introduced the concept of practical SKUs. Structured outputs such as handouts, assessment reports, and actionable tools designed to translate understanding into tangible value creation. And as we move ahead, semester 2, we will focus entirely on the creation of these SKUs with guidance from our mentors, so that every participant and founding member becomes an integral part of building a self-reliant C++ ecosystem. And with that perspective, today's discussion is not about theory. It is about real journeys, real decisions, real insights. To begin this conversation, I would like to invite reflections from our distinguished panel comprised of the Visionary Council members, Professor Dieter Trau, co-founder CareersPlus, Mr. Christopher Osborne, Visionary Council member CareersPlus, Mr. Kwang M. Do, Visionary Council member of CareersPlus, and Mr. Bargab Mohandas, the founder of CareersPlus. So this question is open to all our panelists. Maybe we can start with Mr. Chris. Looking back at your journey, what is one decision or mindset that truly defined your path? And what should one carry forward into the next phase of growth? Mr. Chris, if you can answer this question first.
Sure. Look, it's a challenging question. I think if there were a single decision that I made, it would have been to leave my home country and go overseas to work in a completely different business environment, a completely different legal system, a completely different cultural scenario. It was a decision I made at the time. I had very, very good work as an Australian lawyer in a very large law firm in Sydney, but I just couldn't help but think that there was something bigger and better out there. I wanted to be part of something much bigger, and I set my sights on Thailand. I was looking for a challenge. I was looking to sort of stretch things a bit. So I wanted a culture that, wasn't, a former English colony. I wasn't really interested in Singapore or Hong Kong. I wanted a different language, a different legal system. I was looking for more of a challenge, and Thailand has delivered that consistently since day one. And the reason I was looking for a challenge was self-development, growth. And that is something that I found consistently here in Thailand. To give you an idea of the impact that it's had on my career, I came to Thailand 25 years ago in 2001. Initially, I'd never been to Thailand before. And I thought, well, I'll stick it out for 3 years, come hell or high water, just to give it a shot. But after the first 3 months, it was just so much more rich and diverse in terms of what it had to offer professionals that there was no way that I could see myself returning to Australia. And I've been here ever since. So for me, the decision was to get out of the comfort zone and go international. It was a lot of hard work, but it's been so incredibly rewarding. So I think for me, that was the single biggest decision.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. I truly resonate with your answer. Out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. Now I would like to hear with Mr. Kwang. Mr. Kwang, how about you, sir?
Sure.
What is your take on this one decision or mindset that truly define your path?
I think, especially in this audience, in this group we have, everyone is quite diverse and in terms of experience. And I think that over time, the thing to remember is that there are probably better experts than you in most other things, and you can't possibly be the expert in anything. And that's all right. It's humbling, but you have to keep that mindset. The key here is to build a network and understand what people can do, what they bring to the table, and actually reach out and depend on that network. I don't believe you can do anything yourself. But really, as you build businesses and careers, your main goal is to have connections with people who have stronger understandings and knowledge to share, who are willing to share. In return, though, you too also need to understand that everyone develops their own expertise, but you should also be willing to share those expertise as well. So, and that's the only real way that you really build success And I think that's something, especially for people from such varied backgrounds, from different countries, let alone different educational backgrounds and expertise. It's just something that over time I think becomes more and more apparent, especially in this day and age. I think as one gets older, you realize that we clearly need expertise of people who are coming up because a lot of people just don't have those same expertise. So I think you have to keep that open mind and be willing to share yourself.
Thank you for your answer. It reminded me of this quote that I heard from someone. If you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room. So going to our panelists here live in EIT, I would like to invite Professor Dieter to answer the question, sir.
Yeah, I think my story is quite similar to Chris. You know, so I left Germany, where I was a bit in a comfort zone. I had a good job as an engineer, but then, you know, I got the opportunity to study in Hong Kong. So a very different environment, a different language. Also, my English was not that good as it's today. And this was very challenging. But anyway, the opportunities I saw and the change in life and, you know, environment, pursued me to take the step, and also that step led to many other developments in my life. Yeah, quite similar to Chris.
Professor Dieter here is from Germany to Hong Kong, Singapore, and now Thailand. So really multicultural. How about you, Mr. Bergab?
Well, I was just thinking, you know, while listening to all our colleagues out here, because it's very hard for me to pinpoint one decision, because there are quite a few decisions that I took during my time. But one thing that was common every time when I had to take a decision towards transition was that never compromise on the core value that we have, that, you know, we have entrusted upon. So be it from the perspective of the industry in which I'm working, be it from the perspective from the professional aspirations, be it from the perspective of, you know, give it something back to the society, I always have like set certain values which, you know, maybe like I consider them to be absolutely non-compromising. So that's what I have been doing all this while, and so far so good. You know, still moving on and aspire to move on further. So that's how I would say. So that's why quite a few times, at least 3 times in my life, this decision came. First time, I think, a decision to get out of the comfort zone of a very well-paid corporate job to start things on my own. Second time, when there were chances to do some sort of like compromising certain of my personal ethical values in order to compromise for some materialistic gains, which I declined and chose a much tougher path. And very recently, you know, like actually that realization came to me during one of the CareersPlus session, when I was actually sort of like trying to tell our youngsters that always try to give importance to the cause over individuals, because a lot of time giving importance to individuals over the objective can also put us in the harm's way. So that's another thing based on which I just took another very strong decision just weeks back, and going to implement it next week. So yeah, there are quite a few such decisions but one thing that remained core, that the principle that I have set up, that I refuse to compromise on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bergab. So know your values and maintain integrity. Thank you for those incredible, insightful reflections. What stands out is that while each journey is unique, there is a common thread of conscious decision-making, resilience, and evolving clarity. And that brings us to some more focused perspective. So I would like to turn again to Mr. Chris to ask you, sir. We would value your insights on navigating global corporate environments. What is your take on this, Mr. Chris?
I think it's a very important skill. When I graduated, I wasn't really aware of the importance of this. We focused on the law as product, and that's what we had to focus on. Our priority was legal excellence and delivering the best possible advice. But this concept of navigating a corporate environment was something that was never actually taught as part of the curriculum. Yeah. And it's incredibly important when you're working in a large organization, because people talk about teamwork, sometimes without ever thinking about what that actually means. But the reality is, if you're delivering a complex solution to a large organization, you need a large team to deliver that. And that involves getting on with a large number of people from different backgrounds and different cultures. And there is actually a lot of effort involved in fitting into a corporate culture. And in an international context, it's much more complicated, because every country has their own quirks, I guess, or their own cultural norms. But as the world becomes more and more internationalized, a very bad result can happen if you send a very technically talented individual overseas into a foreign culture or a foreign organization with no preparation of how to actually fit in. And so I think this concept is almost worthy of a subject in its own right. And I think it's a shame that it's not actually taught in detail at university level, because if you can't get on well with people in an organization, it just won't work very well. And so what that often means is looking for a toolkit that is outside of what you've been studying at university. So it's important to actually, one way or another, develop those skills to be able to, I guess listening is probably the single biggest requirement for a corporate environment, to understand what's actually going on, what's expected, and how to actually deliver a meaningful response. So I think it's an area where there's no simple answer, but again, there's a lot of effort, and it needs just as much effort as the underlying technical capability of the professionals within any organization.
Yes, you mentioned listening is one core tool that you have to apply to navigate global corporate environments. So do you have advice for young professionals entering multinational organizations, aside from listening, of course? Any practical advice that you can tell the young professional listening to us right now?
I think any talented professional will be keen to display their capability. I certainly was, and I think anyone that's good at their job would want to let people know that. I think one of the traps to avoid would be to simply broadcast your capabilities and come up with a solution prematurely. I think a lot of people will actually assume that you're good at what you do. There's no need to actually prove it. Even at a junior level, organizations that hire you will do so recognizing your capabilities. And the clients that you're talking to will assume that you're actually good at what you do. So you don't need to prove it. And I think instead of broadcasting your capabilities, which might actually be a way of acting defensively slightly, just listen to what the client wants. Because quite often the way that you look at things as a junior, I guess, professional won't necessarily be what the client actually wants or what other people in the organization actually want. So I think a lot of it would be in terms of understanding what the requirement is. And in some cases, it won't be obvious. And I think this is where some professionals don't want to lose face. They don't want to ask questions. They don't want to seek clarification. But one thing I can say is I value that. When a lawyer or another professional says, listen, I didn't really understand what you're asking me to do. Is it this or that? And actually, I need some more information. I think those types of questions are exactly the type of questions that you really want to be asking. So instead of broadcasting what you can do, I guess find out, what you can also do, what else you might be able to learn from the situation. So again, it's more than just active listening. It's gathering information, seeking clarification, and, asking other people in your organization and asking your clients, how do we do this?
Enhancing your communication skills. And communication involves two-way, listening and asking questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chris, for those practical and grounded insights. Now I would like to move on to Mr. Kwang. We would value your perspective on growth within large organizations and leadership level decision-making, sir. If you can
Yeah,
expound on this too.
sure. I think in this day and age, obviously we have a lot of companies globally. And well, let's take the example of us being in Thailand as an example. The reality is that you still have to be very aware of the culture of the country you're in. But as international corporate citizens or members of a company, you also have to be very aware and capable of understanding the corporate culture that was originally set up. And as international corporate workers, that's the single role that you have that no one else has. You have to bridge the gap between a target market and the original company itself. And it's a hard line to balance. And that's a challenge. And that's actually what makes you valuable to a corporation or to a job. I think Chris touched upon it quite well. Once you're hired, the truth of the matter is there is already confidence in your work and the quality of your work and your ability. But your real value added is learning to become that bridge and understanding both sides. That's the true addition I think most people need to always remember. It's not the best presentation. It's not the best well-written analysis. Those things you will learn from your coworkers. You can work together with your coworkers. But what you bring is you can always look to bring is the ability to bridge between the home culture and the market culture. I think as long as you always remember that and understand that you're a bit of a translator, that's going to be a very good role for a lot of these international business entrepreneurs or corporate people going forward in the future.
In this day and age, do you think building long-term value is better than short-term success or the other way around? Which one do you think is better?
Well, clearly the first thing. Short-term success is never the answer, but it's really hard to keep that. Your first job, it's going to be really hard to understand the long-term picture.
Yep.
What I think everyone should do from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint is to say, I have a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal. The company has a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal. I promise you that your 5-year goal will change. Your 3-year goal, you might achieve maybe 10 to 20% of it. And your 1-year goal, you'll probably only achieve 50% of it. But you have to set those types of things and that type of long-term thinking. Understanding that even just 1 year later, a lot of things change. Look at the world today. I don't think we can possibly have said a year ago we'd be in the situation that we're in now in any type of market, economically, politically, whatever it might be. So we should always be aware that things change very quickly. So just being obsessed with the short-term goal doesn't make much sense to me. You have to be very flexible and always thinking a few steps ahead and just try to be prepared as much as possible.
You have to be very flexible and think too much ahead. Thank you, Mr. Kwang. Now, turning over to Professor Dieter. Professor, you have been seen and experienced multiple career pathways yourself across academia, innovation, and industry. We'd love to hear your thoughts on your own journey today. How would you reflect, sir? Can you share?
I wish I had something like a CareersPlus or something like an equivalent of it in my early time. Unfortunately, I did not have that. And I think a more planned career approach would have been better for me. Sometimes I think maybe I was just lucky also. Luck is one component, but hard to control. So I was lucky to be at the right time, at the right place, meeting the right people. And some of those, they recognized my talent and they helped me and they opened the path, to future things and a decision that made a big change for me. But one thing I did right, the same what we taught in CareersPlus. In my early time, I always went for knowledge, experience, different environments over pay or money. So once I left a very good job, and I changed to the University of Münster. My parents, my friends, have said I'm crazy. Why you do this? You don't get paid there. But what I got is a lot of experience, different environment, and I met some professors there, and they helped me actually for my next step. What I mentioned, I did the same as Chris. I left a comfortable environment in Germany and went to Asia to study for my PhD, which was at the end probably the most important decision, one of the most important decisions that changed a lot. And as a consequence, I became a professor at Hong Kong, then at Singapore, and then here at Thailand. But it's much better to have something like CareersPlus. You cannot rely on the luck. Some of my previous schoolmates and so on, they didn't have that luck. They also didn't have CareersPlus. And so better you rely or you join us, in CareersPlus and use, these, the knowledge you get in CareersPlus, the strategies, and apply them wisely. That is a planned approach. Don't rely on luck alone. Yes.
Join CareersPlus. Thank you, Professor Dieter. And now bringing this back to the core of today's initiative, I would like to invite Mr. Bergab to share how does CareerPlus connect with the day-to-day realities of budding professionals? And what is the long-term vision of this initiative?
Okay, thank you so much. So actually, while listening through all our learned friends and colleagues, so I just feel the 17 sessions of CareersPlus, we got a quick recap of it, because many of the points that Mr. Chris, Mr. Kwong highlighted, actually we focused a session each on those, right? And of course, Professor Dieter also summed it up. So it's really very fulfilling. I believe our viewers, our participants can see the repeat telecast at a glance of the 17 sessions. Now coming to this, right? Like how this CareersPlus got initiated, because in today's time, especially when we have a lot of amenities to assist our thinking process, so we really want to grow really very fast, but without maybe thinking much, what, why, and how. We simply think that, okay, whatever we see easily available, we want to run behind that, or sometimes we see people doing certain things. So what happens as a result of that? Like a lot of time, perhaps there is intent, but whether that intent is going in the right direction with the right effort or not, there is a big gap. So that was the whole reason why CareersPlus got initiated, right? So that's what like we felt that if we have a tool, like Professor Dieter said, and which I personally believe too, maybe during my formative years, if we have something to guide us through, so that definitely would have helped to at least reduce some of the frustrations or some of the negative energy that came across, during this process. So that's how we see it. CareersPlus, as we all know, that we try to touch all the basics, right? Basics ranging from how to know ourselves well so that we can plan accordingly better. And at the same time, in the process of planning and executing the necessary associated things, like how we plan our own financials, how we know the law better, how we can, improve our public communication and things like that. As we all know that we made the learning part of CareersPlus free of charge, and in fact, that, I don't know, I mean, on a lighter note, it just might give certain people the idea that, so when we offer something for free, people tend to believe maybe, it doesn't work that much, but I'm sure, with the progression that would be definitely, it would be a thing of the past. But having said that, the way I see it, we really would like the people to accept it on their own by implementing CareersPlus. So that's why, like we have done with our all founding members, that all the amenities of CareersPlus is available free of charge for them. And we actually are more than willing to implement those, like some of our members, as we know, that already got absorbed into new jobs of their choice, things like that. So we literally want to touch the basics of the people who already has acquired CareersPlus and promote this in a manner so that it becomes like word of mouth, helps it expanding in a manner that in a day-to-day life, going forward for the budding professionals, CareersPlus can become a way of life. because Careers Plus Plus touch base upon every aspect that a budding professional would need, right? So the moment they come across that challenge, okay, let's look into what is there in Careers Plus Plus, and we solve our problem. So that's how we see that it helps the budding professionals, and that itself is the long-term vision of this initiative. That we want to see Careers Plus Plus as the way towards cutting down all the negativity inside an individual, because a lot of time negativity or negative energy, they come through what, due to lack of information, lack of knowledge, lack of opportunity, lack of even luck, maybe. All those gaps basically we look forward to bridge the gap. All those gaps we look forward to bridge, so that people can achieve what they deservedly desire. I think we try to focus on this word, because we can desire a lot of things, but do we really deserve them? So that's why we upgrade ourselves to the extent that we should be able to deserve, what we desire. And we really want Careers Plus Plus to see as a part of everyone's life, to make their life better. Like I think Ms. Jennifer, in your introductory remark, you already mentioned that intent of Careers Plus Plus is to make everyone realize, while strengthening their careers, to make them realize at the same time that career is not the ultimate goal. It's just part of the journey that we call life, right? So that's what, just to answer both the questions. Yeah.
So how do we find its true success?
True success of Careers Plus Plus, frankly speaking, I just see it in 3 points. Not through, not through like the number of subscriptions or nothing like that. It's not nothing with tangible things like that. What we see that Careers Plus should, the day it becomes a part of people's life, as I already have explained. That's number one. Number two, okay, we are going to integrate the SKUs in next 2 quarters within this year. So once the SKUs are active, so of course Careers Plus Plus will start to have its own revenue, so it becomes self-sufficient. So I believe that Careers Plus Plus success lies in people making it part of their lives, and it becomes self-sufficient because it's promoting self-reliance among the people, right? So the day it becomes self-reliant, and the ultimate success, I would see the day Careers Plus Plus can start supporting its users. For example, if some Careers Plus Plus, subscribed member, apparently they come across with some good business ventures or good ideas that requires good funding support, which may not be available in the traditional, like investment cycle. But Careers Plus Plus, if it grooms that idea and it believes in it, that it can grow, Careers Plus Plus should be able to support such ideas as well. So the day we reach that stage, we believe we are truly successful. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bergab.
Thank you.
Before we open the floor for Q&A, I would like to request each of our panelists to share their closing thoughts or words of wisdom in about 1 or 2 minutes, starting with Mr. Chris.
Oh, look, I wish I was wise enough to give you a couple of minutes worth of that. But I think all I can say is that when it comes to a career, it's something that's a big part of you. It's very important to nurture that. And you can't have a career in isolation, at least in most of what we do. I think if you are working in an organization, it's very important to figure out how to fit into that organization, how to make a difference with that organization, and to figure out what will make that organization grow. Ultimately, this is a place where you will spend most of your working hours. It's in your best interest to make it a place that you enjoy being. And if you can make that happen, then I think everyone wins.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. Mr. Kwang, we would like to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, I think, to echo Chris, I think that, clearly there's always a lot to learn. I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is that every step is going to lead to something else, but you can't possibly predict it. You can have maps and paths and things like that, but really put yourself in a situation where you can contribute. The minute you feel that you can't contribute, or you feel like your contribution is not appreciated, then perhaps you need to assess how things can change for yourself. And I think you do still have to have that view for yourself. Understand that you have the power to put yourself in a situation where you can feel like your contribution is always appreciated. And I think everyone forgets that. It's not something as simple as how much you get paid, but it's actually more about how you can contribute, how you make a certain type of mark that you can be proud of. So try to remember that. I think that's a big thing. And then you'll have the chance to look back and talk about it, and it'll be much more interesting. I don't think anyone's ever going to remember how much money they made on a single project 20 years ago, let alone 5 years ago. But the learnings that you had, the contributions you made, I think you talk about those all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Kwang. Professor Dieter?
Yeah, so I'm happy we started this CareersPlus. You know, it's not just started. It's a result of our experience, also my experience over the last 5-6 years here at AIT to recognize that gap, and then Mr. Bhargav then gave it a push and founded it, and I think we all worked very nicely as a team. Jennifer Sangs and Praju, Tungish and Earth is behind that screen. To make it what it is today, I think we created some impact, and there will be more impact, for young people to come and change their life. Yeah. Let's move forward on that avenue.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bhargav?
So yeah, Professor Dieter summed it up quite well already. So I think I would just top up that, learning never stops. Even as I mentioned moments back, even while conducting some of the sessions, pathfinding workshop sessions at CareersPlus, I just realized that while I'm, telling this to our youngsters, I myself am falling behind on this. So let's do it. So let's keep on learning, keep on growing, and of course, the next semester will bring in a new feature where all of our founding members have an opportunity to become, in real sense, part of the foundation team. We just continue, focus on doing the best work, be the best version of ourselves, and the results should come, as a byproduct. That's with that I would like to conclude my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhargav. Thank you very much once again to our panelists, Mr. Chris, Mr. Kwang, Professor Dieter, Mr. Bhargav. Now we are open for Q&A, short Q&A. Now the floor is open for a short Q&A. If you have any questions, this is a wonderful opportunity to interact directly with our panelists.
Hello. So my name is Prajakta. I'm one of the participants from the CareerPlus. I want to thank everyone in the CareerPlus, that all supportive staffs, that they give me this opportunity to be here and to learn more about this one. So thank you so much for this one. So I have a question for Chris. So we all are talking about career growth and success. So my question is, how should a young professional balance the ambition with the personal well-being so that he doesn't lose his happiness?
Well, I think that's really important, because at the beginning of your career, you're going to be very, very, very focused on short-term results, because the short term is what you're used to. And it's important not to burn out. And I think that's a risk that faces many people in the profession, that they'll try and run too hard for a few years in a row, and then they just can't take it anymore. They just don't get as much meaning out of it. I'd say view this as a marathon rather than a sprint. And I think, going back to, what Kwang was saying, that, you can never really predict what's going to happen. And I think resilience might not be the right word, because it kind of says, well, the onus is on you to sort of deal with it. But I think if you can accept that things might not go the way that you'd planned originally, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, when you start a career, you're not going to be ideally placed to take a view on what the long term might hold for you. This is something that happens, but I think what you can control is how you react to things around you. And rather than taking things defensively, the situation arises that isn't working out for you, either whether it's in growth or whether it's a professional issue or it's a personal conflict in the office, it's just a very simple matter, well, in theory at least, of just trying to find out what's going on. And I think you can do that respectfully and quite openly, just to figure out if there's a way of dealing with that. I think one problem that I've seen with a lot of professionals is they'll try and internalize issues, that they're often reluctant to say that something's troubling them or that something isn't quite going the way that they'd hoped, because they feel that not getting what they sort of planned for is one sort of form of failure. So they're not really willing to admit to having a bump in the road experience or something like that. So I would be quite open in addressing how you feel in a professional context, just to see how you can deal with it, and take an open mind about how you might change your approach to adopt that. And again, I think what Kwong said about it was very important about finding an environment in which your contribution makes you feel valued, because again, you just don't have a career without that, and it's incredibly important to satisfy that requirement. So if for whatever reason that you can't achieve that, if you've tried a couple of times to figure it out and it's just not working at one particular organization, then I think you need to think about, will there be another organization that will actually work for you? To give you one example, for myself, my first career was in winemaking, and a lot of jobs for winemakers at the time were in very rural areas, and it took me a few years to figure out it's just not working for me. I don't have the pace. I just couldn't really deal with the way things were being, I guess, progressed in that environment. So I left that for law, because I felt I needed a bigger city, more people, and a faster pace. So that was, me sort of moving from one environment to another after having sort of tried it. So I'd say, just because your planned, I guess, trajectory doesn't work out, don't interpret that as failure. Interpret that as a good excuse to change and grow in another direction. But at the same time, explore, what it can take to actually accommodate that. I don't know if that sort of helps provide any guidance there for you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris, for your answer, and thank you, Prajakta, for your question. We have another question.
I would like to firstly thank all our panelists and our host for this wonderful session. There were very insightful discussion revolving around various domains. So I have a question on skills for global and corporate success. So my question is directed to Mr. Kwang. So sir, I would just like to ask that for someone starting their career today, what would you say is one key game changer skill or a way of thinking that would help them stand out in a large or big global organization?
Good question. Quite honestly, I think that the fact that you asked that question is already a huge step. Just being aware of that, which it sounds like a cheap answer, but I actually truly mean that. I think that being a global thinker, thinking in terms of fitting into a larger global corporation and having that mindset is already huge. So I think you're already one step ahead. But I think the key step is to be flexible. I started off working, I was educated in the US and I started off working out in the United States. And the best thing I ever did was to actually join a ongoing project that made me have to leave the US and made me leave my comfort zone. And I ended up traveling around the world. I ended up being able to see different aspects of global business. But I think the only reason that happened was the idea of being flexible, being willing to try different things. You might not like the choice that your bosses or the management team has made for you, but you actually have to be flexible because you never know what will come out of it. And now I'm sitting here in Thailand, and I promise you that was not my plan. As I think Chris had alluded to as well, you just don't actually live your plan. You have to be flexible. So I think being aware of the global mindset and being flexible for those new challenges is essential for your success.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
so much.
Thank you.
We have another question coming up. Okay.
So I have a question for Professor Dieter. Many young people struggle with choosing a different path like job, entrepreneurship, or higher career. So how should one approach this decision without overthinking, making it like to be a right choice? How can he choose a right choice without overthinking about it?
You mean a decision between maybe go into academia
Yes, yes.
or go into an existing
Yes.
corporate
Yes, sir.
or start your own business?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's one of the big questions we addressed in Careers Plus, right? Those are the main pathways of career development. And, you know, broadly speaking, you go to academia, you have freedom, but maybe less money. Going to a big corporate, you have probably a higher security and larger money. Going to entrepreneurship, you have nothing of it. You you have either money, you have security, but of course you have a large opportunity. You know, and if you're young and you don't yet have a family and things like this, I think the entrepreneurial path also is interesting, you know, because you don't have, you don't need to support maybe a wife, husband, or kids, and you know, do that as long you have the chance, you know. So maybe in your early time, and for sure, you know, you may fail or not in this path, but what is for sure, it's a huge, you know, learning trajectory you will see, you know, because you will be confronted with many aspects, you know, of course, the business, the service, the product you make, but also with regulations, with tax, with agreements, with legal aspects, you know, with leadership, leading a team, and dealing with employees, and so on and so forth. So your learning trajectory will be immense. You know, that is one thing that you get for sure. The other things, that is open. Yeah. So, and of course, the other aspect is what you really want and what makes you happy. Yeah. So it's a very hard question. Everybody has to.
Can I just add a little
Yes,
bit,
sir,
Professor,
please.
with your permission? Maybe the easiest way, join Careers Plus and
Yes.
go through that assessment program that we have, right? So we have an assessment program for our natural instincts as well as where do we have our strengths, right?
Yes,
Strength mapping.
right.
So I think anyone who can go through those two steps of evaluation can do a self-assessment at where they're best suited. Yeah.
Yes, right. That's why we build it. That's why we came up with it.
Thank you, sir.
We have time for one more question.
Hello, I'm Nasif here.
Hi, Nasif. Go ahead. What's your question,
So
Nasif?
I would like to start by thanking everyone of Career Plus for having so many talented minds in a single panel discussion. I'm very grateful to Career Plus. So other people might not know, because this question would be general to everyone, whoever wants to answer. It's actually of expert opinion. So there's a competition coming up at AIT. It's the innovation workshop and pitch competition, and there's a good prize money given to it as well, like 7,000 baht for the first prize. And I am myself is a fitness enthusiast. I have become the North European champion, national champion of Bangladesh, and I have like total 25 medals and trophies. So I'm very expert in the health and fitness sector. So I am having, because of the innovation workshop and pitch competition, I'm thinking that how about to launch an AI-powered or generated app where people can use it to track their daily calories. They can even take pictures and of a food, and the calories will show up, and they'll track their health metrics and all that. Now with the AI, it's very easy. They do not really need an app. They can directly ask ChatGPT about it, and
it comes on. But my question is, with the growing adoption of AI in all sort of apps, how can a platform like the fitness or health balance between automated insights and human behavioral psychology to drive long-term lifestyle change and not just short-term tracking? Did I make my question clear?
Can I jump in, because I'll need to jump off shortly, but I think it's a very clear question, and I'm glad it's asked. Full disclosure, I'm not in a position to give you an answer directly, but what I will say is, I think what you're looking at, what you're seeking to address, is incredibly important for professionals now more than ever. I think what I do see in most office environments is a large number of people putting physical activity on hold. They're not making time for it. They're making poor decisions with their diet. They're leaning towards ultra-processed food because it's inconvenient, and they're leaning towards medical intervention as a solution. But if I understand you correctly, you're proposing something else that would actually keep them out of hospital in the first place, give them better nutrition and activity in their life. And I think anything that you can do to make this accessible to someone in an office environment is going to work really well. I think if people look at you and think, well, that guy's just incredibly fit and he's talented, he's the natural champion, and I just can't do that, it's not for me. I think if you can democratize diet, if you can democratize fitness at a level that anyone can access it, then regardless of how you implement it, whether it's AI, whether it's app-based, I think if you can actually make it accessible to office workers, it will be incredibly valuable to anyone. So again, apologies for not answering the question in terms of implementation, but I think if you can just make it directly relevant to the average person and find a way to sort of prompt them into these choices, then I think that's going to be a huge benefit to society generally. So I'm very glad to hear you looking at that.
Actually, that's one of the things that we are considering now. Chris, I'll have a discussion with you on this one. So it just might be a CareersPlus spin-off as well. Let's see, I mean, how the prospects. But yeah, I mean, we are considering this to take it forward. Yeah. But I would like maybe if any of our like for Nasif's question, if anyone would like to answer, I'd be grateful, because I've been speaking to them quite a bit of late. So I think if any of our colleagues answer his, maybe Mr. Kwong, do you like to address this?
I'm using Claude right now while we're doing this to run an analysis and put a dashboard together. So I'm still learning how to use AI, quite honestly. I think what I'm finding is that access to information is very easy for anyone at this point in time. That part is democratized, and I think Chris talked about that quite well. The idea you can democratize information. The idea is now to create it a way for it that it is deemed useful and essential to daily life. And I think one of the things that you probably have to touch upon is really creating a social network around it, or some societal pressure or market demand, I think is what you probably learn in class more, for that type of democratized information. You know, finding calorie counts on food, that's a pretty simple thing nowadays. It was pretty simple before, and we've had fitness trackers and things like that. But I think the idea is understanding your market. I think Chris hit on something. It could be the office worker. It could be developing countries where information on diet is not yet fully spread out, and you can have something that's developed into that within the medical system. It could be with insurance companies. I think the key here is that you need to find partners and ways to really find that niche, to identify your market, to find your addressable market, and start there. You can't be all things to all people, but if you really focus on where you can actually find a way to really tailor it to people where they can actually take that information and use it, that would be key. And I think that's step one. But to just build it and hope it works for everyone, I don't think that makes quite a bit of sense. So I think that's what I would say. Really look at finding that addressable market first. The data is easy, but actually identifying how to market that or finding your customers, that's going to be the challenge.
To make the people
and focus a bit more on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Nasif, for your question, and thank you, Mr. Kwang, Mr. Chris, and Mr. Bagab for your answers. Do we have one last question?
Yeah, I have a last question. So this is just a rapid reflection of what we discussed today. So this question is not directed to anyone specific, but anyone of our panelists can answer this. So I would just like to ask, like in one line, what does success mean to you? Or how do you define success in a very brief term?
I think maybe Mr. Kwong, you start first, and we all follow you.
One line? Impact. I think success is having pride of the impact that you've made, whether it be on a corporate level, whether it be as an entrepreneur creating something for the marketplace or for customers, whether it be as part of a professional team. It could be impact on people. It could be impact on a corporation. It could be impact on the marketplace. I think you rarely find that impact is actually measured by dollars and cents. I don't think if that's what's driving you, you're actually going to end up feeling that you're a success. But I actually think that the impact that you make along the way will measure your success much more than any single dollar figure. So if you can keep that in mind, which is very hard, I think in the long run, you'll probably be a much happier person.
Maybe I can add onto it. You know, I changed my definition of success a bit, you know, in the last years. I think success is if you have found the balance between your job, your free time, you know, to have enough money to support what you want to do. So the balance between all of this, if you have achieved this, then you can say you are really successful. Before I was not successful, I may have a higher salary, but I was not so happy. So, you know, that is my definition of a success. After you found the balance between happiness, your job, your income, your free time, and your family, and things you really want to do, at that point, you are successful.
Can I add one thing? No one has ever asked me if I'm successful or not. No, you know, don't worry about what people think. I think it's really just to what Professor has said. It's really about how you value yourself. But I promise you, no one. My children have never even asked me if I'm successful. So I don't think it really matters to anyone else. So really take that moment to take to heart what the professor has said about how you value yourself. I think that is important.
I think that's very much, that's it. I think to me also success is about, do we feel content of what we are doing? I mean, do we feel content of ourselves? And the second question, you know, supplementary question that we might ask ourselves, that are we being, you know, useful? So I just always ask these two questions to myself, that do I really feel good at this point in time? And have I been contributing? Actually, that basically balances out, contains both the things that both professor said about being content, and if I'm contributing, the thing that Mr. Kwong said about adding impact. So if the answer to both the questions are yes, then yeah, that is success, I would say. Yeah, thank you.
If there's no more question, yeah. So we have now come to an end of our session for today. I would like to thank all our panelists, Mr. Chris, Mr. Kwang, Professor Dieter, and Mr. Bargab, for sharing not just your insights, but your experiences that truly matter. And thank you to all our participants for being part of this journey with openness and intent. As we close semester 1 of CareersPlus, we do so with clarity, awareness, and readiness. And as we move forward into semester 2, the focus now shifts from understanding to creating, contributing, and becoming self-reliant. We look forward to continuing this journey with all of you. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
If you found this content useful, please hit like and subscribe our Careers Plus channel. Thank you.